What's up everybody, my name is Don, and today I'm going to be playing what many people may consider the best Castlevania game on the NES, if not just flat out the best Castlevania game period. I think otherwise. It's Castlevania III, Dracula's Curse. During 15th century Europe, there lived a person named Dracula. He practiced sorcery in order to create a bad world filled with evil. Kinda redundant in saying bad and evil in the same sentence. He began taking over the continent of Europe, changing countries from good to bad. The good people of Europe tried to fight off Dracula, but no one was able to survive. Finally, the Belmont family was summoned to battle Dracula's vile forces. The Belmont family has a long history of fighting evil. The townspeople became afraid of the Belmont's superhuman power and asked them to leave the country. Fortunately, the people found a mighty Belmont called Trevor, or Ralph if you're from Japan. The curse of Dracula has begun. The fate of Europe lies with Trevor. Now, Castlevania III is a step up from the first two games. For one thing, it keeps the linear style of level design from the first game, but it's also just as long, if not slightly longer than the second game. But with a price, this game is way harder than those first two. You can put in a code to get extra lives. It's called Help Me, but I won't be doing that. And we're already off to a great start with this new Belmont, or should I say this old Belmont. Yes, that's right, Castlevania III is a prequel to the first two Castlevania games, so Trevor is an ancestor of Simon, and Christopher, since Castlevania The Adventure took place in the 16th century and not the 15th century. And yeah, Castlevania is confusing. But as we all know, this is actually the basis for the Castlevania anime series on Netflix, and I will say that that series is just badass. You have to watch it, it's just something else, it's wonderful. But more onto the subject of this game and not the animated series, I could go back into that later. Castlevania III does harken back to the original in many ways, but there are some changes to make this game more unique and even harder than what was established before. Let's talk about the main culprit, staircases. The way they work has been changed from previous games and also future games to come. Instead of holding diagonally and facing the staircase, you can just hold up or down in order to move up the staircase. Which works, but it's also finicky too, because if you want to use a sub-weapon or if you want to duck, and Trevor is right next to a staircase, say you're like right before this staircase, and you press up, Trevor, I almost called him Simon, why is it with Simon? Trevor will strafe his way to the foot of the staircase and start climbing, which could potentially open yourself to getting hit. The change in control scheme is novel, sort of, but there are also enemies that are going to be placed on top of staircases. And you have to find a workaround in order to defeat them or not take too much damage, and that part can get annoying. And here there will be platforms that will rotate whenever you jump on them. They make a reappearance in Castlevania IV and are somehow even trickier in that game than they are in this game, probably because they use them a lot more in Castlevania IV than in this game. I don't know. Call it a hunch. And you got the classic Medusa heads that just do that wavy pattern across the screen. Every game has that Medusa head pattern except for Castlevania II. Now, there are Medusa heads in Castlevania II, but they just go straight for you, they don't do the wave pattern. That Medusa head will probably blindside you en route to the door. There will be many instances of dick level design in this game, so just be forewarned if you're playing it. Or if you're about to play, because this game is just straight up not nice, man. And yes, I do know that the Japanese version is slightly easier than the American version, in theory. But they also changed things like hit detection on certain bosses, so you win some, you lose some. It's kind of like, I find the Japanese version is on the same level of difficulty as the American version. They just changed some things, that's it. But I will say that the Japanese version of the soundtrack is just objectively better than the American version. I mean, yeah, the American version of the soundtrack is good, but the Japanese version is just supremely better. This stage theme right here is called The Beginning, or just simply, Beginning. This is another one of Castlevania's long-running theme songs throughout the series along the lines of Vampire Killer, Simon's Theme, Bloody Tears, you name it. And if I'm gonna be quite honest, I do believe the best version of that song, or the song that I was just playing because we just entered a boss fight, goddamn I'm slow, is Dracula X on the Super Nintendo. That is the definitive version of The Beginning. This boss fight is pretty straightforward. He'll just attack you with his sword, that's basically it. You can jump around him by using the platforms. There's really nothing to talk about with this guy because he is the first boss and he's just dramatic Castlevania pose. Glad to see that return. But he's just a pretty simple boss, nothing to it. And new to the series are branching pathways. Like right here, I'm taking the bottom route because I can't be bothered with a clock tower. Not yet, anyway. The second level is the Mad Forest en route to Castlevania. It's... oh god, we already got the instant kill spikes here. No! Yeah, as you can see, instant kill spikes are already making an appearance, and it's the second level of the game. Didn't I say this game is harder than the previous? Castlevania III is definitely a steeper learning curve. You definitely will want to have a sub-weapon on standby, and if you're doing this whip only then good luck. Honestly, good luck. But while we're on the subject of sub-weapons, they're back! And I mean they're actually back, all of them, and they're not partially absent like they are in Castlevania II or just flat out banned like in The Adventure. They're just fully back. You got the Holy Water in full glory with all of its fiery goodness. You got the axe, the cross is back, the boomerang, and you also got the dagger, which makes a return, which I rarely use because the dagger just sucks. Take this part for example. Yes, my upgraded whip can one-shot kill those owls, but also with my boomerang, I could just destroy them with one hit by just throwing them, and it takes out more of them, and I could do it from afar. And on a side note, the boomerang and the axe just completely dominates the final boss of this game, just FYI. The Hunchbacks make a return from the first game and they're just as annoying to deal with. Again, I just use my boomerang cross so I don't have to deal with them jumping over my whip attack. And this awkward ass skeleton is just on top of the stairs, so I just decide to take a hit and move on. These guys are basically the dry bones of Castlevania games. They just regenerate after getting destroyed, so don't count on them being down forever. You also got Bone Pillars making a return, and instead of 2 shots, they fire 3 shots. So anticipate that 3rd shot. This area right here is pretty simple. It's just Hunchbacks and Bone Pillars. And also you got this pretty detailed fog effect in the background. I didn't know the NES was capable of parallax scrolling, but I guess that's what it is in the background. I'm not quite sure, but it looks good though. Oh, wait, now I just remembered. There was Batman Return of the Joker and Battletoads, so maybe the NES was capable of background scrolling after all. It just took them way later to actually implement that. And here I'm going to take the top path because there's a secret here. Well, it's not really a secret, but you'll find something useful. As for stage transitions, your health does not regenerate until you defeat a boss and grab the orb. You can grab wall meat along the way though. There are just certain locations where you have to grab it, and I only know a couple of those locations. You got these floating jellyfish creatures that will explode into 4 mini jellyfish creatures. One well-placed whip shot will destroy them all. You got other jellyfish that will just die after one hit and disappear, but most of these will just explode into 4 different things, so just be careful and watch the animation as you're whipping. And here we got a wannabe Belmont skeleton. He probably was a Belmont at one point, I don't know. He dies after 1 hit. So long, Belmont brethren that I never knew. I'll be sure to kill Dracula extra hard so that your spirit can live on. Anyway, as we move on, we find another Belmont skeleton. God damn it! Those aren't Belmonts, I was just playing. I see what you're trying to do, game. You want me to get the dinky-ass knife, but I'm not falling for it. I am not falling for it. Again? What the hell is going on? It's like the game is like, no, knife. You need the knife. I want you to have the knife now. You know what? I'm gonna call it right now. The reason why they spawn that many daggers is because they probably won't spawn a single dagger in Ghosts and Goblins. If I do a playthrough of Ghosts and Goblins, and I don't come across a single knife, I'm gonna be furious. And saying that out loud is probably gonna make it true because Ghosts and Goblins is also a mean game. Especially the NES version. God damn the NES version. And here we go with boss time. It is the Cyclops. He's got 2 forms of attack. When you're on ground level with him, he will charge at you, and if you're right next to him, he will throw down his hammer, which will do massive damage. I think it's like 4 to 6 bars of damage. Basically like 3 hits and you're dead. You can use those platforms in order to hit him in the head safely, which you can't really do in the Japanese version because the hitbox on the Cyclops is way smaller than the actual sprite itself. It's the body in the Japanese version, but in the American version, the hitbox is the entire sprite itself. I don't know why they changed that. Actually, no, let me rephrase that because they changed it for the better. I don't know why it was originally like that, because having the hitbox be the entire sprite, face included, works better. Another thing worth noting is that in the Japanese version, the Cyclops doesn't charge nearly as often as he does in the American version. For some reason. You would think he would be more aggressive in the Japanese version, but probably not. Strange little difference. Thanks for helping me. I'm Sypha, the vampire hunter. I will follow you if you need my help. What will you do? Take him with you or leave him behind? Let's take him with. I hope a magic spirit will give us the power, and thus, the greatest thing about Castlevania III? The extra characters, and we shall see this Sypha character in the next part. I'll see you then.